Hi, I'm Mark Murphy, and this is TravelTube.com. Quick reminder, if you have not subscribed at TravelTube.com, please do that. We send a weekly newsletter highlighting some of the posts from travel advisors, travel influencers, and of course, our weekly podcast. But that's just step one. Then you can follow us on your favorite social media platforms because we're everywhere, as well as your favorite podcast apps. So if you're driving your car, you can just listen to my soothing voice, or maybe not. Depends on what you want to do. But this week, I'm going to get into a few things. We're not interviewing a travel advisor this week or a travel supplier. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into more of the media world and what's going on with the Visa bond program. You probably heard about that, where people have to put up 15 grand in order to come into our country. Little bit of misinformation, as we like to say, is out there. What else is out there? I call it the Trump excuse. The latest is an article about TUI Travel blaming Trump for a drop in business. But then the article contradicts that a little bit, and I'll show you why. Same journalist, same TDS. I'll get into taxation without representation and why governments love to tax visitors and why that's a bad thing, and the dreaded resort fee. So let's get into it. All right. So why the Visa bond program? Well, there are certain countries around the world who send people to the United States, and those people come in, they have a visa, and they stay, and they enjoy themselves, I would think, but then they overstay. So to put it in perspective, in 2023, just 2023, 500,000 people overstayed their travel visa. 500,000. So people want to know, like, why are you imposing this bond? So they agree to leave the country as they agreed they would do when they came in, within a set time frame based on what country they're coming from and what they plan on doing in the United States. Very simple. So that $15,000 doesn't get taken from them. They're not paying a fee for that. It's a bond that gets returned to them should they leave under the agreement they signed on for when they traveled here. And by the way, it's got to be a big enough number so that if somebody is coming here, if it was a couple $100, who cares? Like, big deal. Even if it was $1,000, they can overstay. They can work the black market. They can get wages under the table because they're not legally allowed to work here. And therefore, hey, man, what's the big deal? They can make that up in a couple of weeks doing any kind of jobs. So the design here is to prevent that. And it's only starting with 2 countries yet. People in the travel industry are in a little bit of a tizzy. It's going to kill travel and tourism. Yeah, because Malawi is such a big inbound market for the United States, for instance. Or I think Zambia is the other one, and it's a pilot. So we'll see how it goes. But that's what's going on here. And so I don't get why people get in a tizzy about this stuff, because there's a thing called the Visa Waiver Program. And what that says is, for a lot of the countries, the vast majority of our tourism that comes from overseas comes from what are called Visa Waiver countries. And that means that that person goes online, pays $21. That's called the Electronic System for Travel Authorization, ESTA. ESTA, yes, like I'm learning Spanish. Anyway, me personally, I like to get rid of all visa fees. I think that if you get rid of these fees, you actually increase tourism. And other than the bond, because if you've got perpetrators coming in and overstaying their time here, and they're doing that at such a degree, 500,000 people, that's a pretty good sized city in the United States. What are these people doing? Why are they overstaying? Are they criminals? Are they here to do bad? We don't know. But if they can't agree to what they signed up for, which is we're only going to stay as long as we're permitted and then we're going to leave, then I have no problem with that, especially when it's starting with 2 basically insignificant countries that have abused our border and abused their requirements to leave the country as designated. So that's that. But as far as just fees in general, I hate those exit fees that you get hit with at airports, from different countries. I hate the visa landing fees, all the other crap that's out there. Of course, if you're an American traveling abroad, the blue passport gets you to many countries with again, the visa waiver program. So you don't have to apply for a visa and get approved and all that other crap that you have to go through. Now, I mentioned the TUI article and the journalist that is obviously exhibiting TDS like so many are. I just wish they weren't so brainwashed, because I like this guy. I do. But when I see something that, again, misrepresents what's really going on and uses inflammatory quotes, etc., to try to make a point, I call him out. And again, it's a guy I really like, but I'm not going to call him out personally. But man, I know you listen to this, so do me a favor. Stop with the TDS, man. Donald Trump, for everybody in the travel industry, if you like Donald Trump, or you don't like Donald Trump, it doesn't matter. He won't be president in less than 3.5 years, okay? In about another 12 months, we're going to be in a full-blown election cycle, okay? You have a lot more stuff to talk about. But obviously, I think it becomes an excuse for a lot of businesses. I mean, even have the CEO of Southwest talking about how, they're getting impacted, these policies, et cetera, and talking about foreign travel look at the makeup of the routes for Southwest. It's almost all domestic. So 90% of our revenue as a country, when it comes to travel, comes from domestic travels. Americans traveling in America, 90%. 10% comes from outside. And yeah, we are the king of travel in terms of revenues because of the size of the country, the number of people, et cetera. But only 10% is overseas. Now, I'm not diminishing that, but at the same time, I'm saying to myself, why would you write an article focused on the CEO of TUI, a packager that sells trips around the world, whose own CEO says, the U.S. is a relatively small part of our revenue mix, so it hasn't really had a big impact. I'll get into that. But his name is Sebastian. Let me just look it up. Sebastian Ebel, whatever, CEO. And on a last month on a earnings call, he said that his customers are looking to go to Canada, Africa, Asia instead of the U.S. Okay. It's a UK-based operator. And he says, quote, the main reasons for it being the tensions we see, but also news about traveling to the U.S. becoming more difficult. Why? Because we're now asking anybody who wants to stay more than 30 days that they have to, from a visa waiver country like the UK, they need to pay $21 for the authorization. What? Or is it the things that you see in The Guardian, for instance, that are hyper headlines that misrepresent actually what's going on in terms of our customs and border protection? Maybe that's it. Maybe the issue isn't so much the difficulty in travel per se. Maybe it has a lot to do with, let me just see, the UK. Let me see if I can get to the UK here. Could it have anything to do with something like, let's see, I'm going to go here and I'm going to pull up this little bitty, where is it? Let's see. Oh, could it have anything to do with, and if you're listening to this in your car or whatever, let's see, the GDP per capita back in 1990 was almost the same. The US was at basically 24,000, round up a little bit, and rounding up a little bit for the UK, 21,000. So 21,000 versus 24,000. Guess what it is today, folks? The UK has gone from 21,000, a nice increase, to 55,000. And we're going to round up. But the US is now at 90,000 GDP per capita. Yeah, folks, policies matter. Capitalism matters. Growing your economy matters. And obviously, the US has done a much better job of that. And that's why the US is kind of like the safe place for investors in this sea of chaos that's, quote, going on around the world. I mean, didn't you guys in the UK just have 3 million people marching? Yeah, we'll get to the media in the UK in a moment. But there are a lot of reasons why things are the way they are. So the idea that you can just blame a group, a person, an administration. I mean, people talk about safety in the US, but the safety today is so much better than it was just 8 months ago, 9 months ago, dramatically better in a lot of areas because we're taking criminals off the street. I know some people wanted to defund the police. Now I'm not one of them. You know, I see the cop videos where they exceed their authority, et cetera, and I hate those, and they're bad apples, and you need the good cops to call out the bad cops and get rid of those guys. Or you just need citizens like the ones who record those encounters to stop that. But I always find it interesting when people in the UK talk about the authoritarian United States when they just had a comedian arrested for 3 tweets. Met at the airport at Heathrow for posting tweets that people find offensive. Wow, that's too bad. Wow. Yeah, but we're authoritarian, yet you're arresting people for words that you don't like. Or better yet, somebody doesn't like something that, let's say, I say, and if I'm a UK citizen, if that person deems it offensive, they can call the police and the police can come knocking on my door. FYI, this is happening, folks. This is not some make-believe thing. So again, I'd like to tell you all just to shut the you-know-what up because you don't know what the hell you're talking about or you're living in lunacy. Your own country. Again, we're talking about TUI, UK-based operator. I mean, they sell all over the world, passengers from all over Europe, but they're based in the UK. Now, the CEO did not say that. But again, I know people in the UK, and I've seen the posts about it's scary, authoritarian, this and that. I'm thinking, what planet are you people on? Do you even know what's going on in your own country? So again, I mentioned, and this is in an article that was quoted from Newsweek. So again, this journalist didn't speak to the CEO of TUI. He just picked up the comment from the article in Newsweek. And again, I'm wondering why this is the lead. It's like TUI blames Trump, blah, 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 whatever. I have to go. Let's see. Yeah, TUI CEO, here's the exact title. TUI CEO blames Trump immigration policies for U.S. tourism decline. What? Okay. What immigration policy is, again, is it the authorization for $21? That's part of our policy. Okay. Is it the bond that we're charging for countries that you don't even sell travel to? Huh? And nowhere in the article does it spell it out. So, of course, I think what he's trying to get to is people being kidnapped. Yeah, because that's what we want to do. We want to have you come to the country and then we want to kidnap you. Wow. Okay. Is the point the immigration policies, or is it just Trump's the point? Is it related to the GDP per capita just being a drag in the UK and other European countries versus the US? Is it because of, gosh, you had huge inflation in Europe, worse than the US, but we had 1 year over 9% inflation. Were you guys talking about that in 2022 when the inflation rate hit 9%? Were you talking about that? I don't think so. Were you complaining about all the money the U.S. was spending to flood the zone, if you would, with dollars that drove up costs everywhere? And it wasn't just the U.S., because guess what? Many of you folks implemented the same policies during COVID that locked people in their homes. Like if you went out with a cup of coffee, if I recall, somebody who's a friend of mine in the UK said, if you were walking with a cup of coffee, it was or sitting on a park bench, you were having a picnic, and you can't have a picnic during the COVID lockdowns. And then people came out, the spending went through the roof. All the foreign governments spent money that they didn't have. They just printed dollars, printed pounds, printed euros, and inflation went crazy. Could have had anything to do with that. How about the Forex and the declining value of, let's say, the euro, which at one point was $1.50 to $1, and now is it's gotten back up a little bit because the U.S. is devaluing the dollar. So that's to drive more exports. Not going to get into that. I'm a finance guy. That's what I studied. I ran a business. Could it have anything to do with that? And even despite devaluing the dollar, it's gone from like up to like $1.18, $1.17 now with the euro. Pound, a little more for the pound versus the dollar, but still way down from its peak, where you could literally fly to the U.S., shop in New York, and you would save so much money, stay in a 4-star hotel, spend a long weekend, and fly back to London, and you could buy your products and everything else, go back to your to the UK, and it would actually be cheaper than shopping in the UK itself. Let's say at Harrods or wherever you wanted to go. Yeah. Could it have anything to do with excessive taxation and stagnant wages in Europe? Of course not. No way. It can't. That's physically impossible. No way. Wow. Okay. So let's get into the article and the blatant misrepresentations. I can also refer to them as lies, or they're either misrepresentations or lies. And specifically, I'm talking specifically here, not the whole article, but there's a woman named Sarah Shaw, and this is why context matters. So The Guardian, UK, said Sarah Shaw, and again, the journalist is quoting the quote from The Guardian. Sarah Shaw from New Zealand and her 6-year-old son, who live in the U.S., are being held at a U.S. immigration center after they were detained crossing the Canada-U.S. border. Now, here's where I have a problem with the journalist. Following that quote, he couldn't resist throwing his opinion in there. Instead of just reporting straight up, here comes his opinion. Obviously, this is his words, no one wants to go on vacation, get abducted by masked men, and end up in a detention center. Of course, it's going to affect tourism. All right, hit the effing brakes. Trying to keep it clean. Sarah Shaw, a person who came from New Zealand in 21 and within a year married a U.S. citizen. That's interesting. And is already divorced within a year. Interesting. But she has a kid, and she has more than one kid. And she's also employed, a New Zealand citizen is employed by Washington State for a job. Let me ask you a question. Do you live in Washington State? Are there people in Washington State that are actual citizens of the United States that could have filled that job? Probably. Was Sarah Shaw, coming from Canada to the U.S., was she coming here to vacation? No. Here's the context, folks. She drove to Vancouver from Washington State. She lived in Everett from Washington State. And she was, just so everybody understands, she was here in the United States legally. And she had a work and a travel permit, like a combo thing. But she had two separate permits, a travel permit and a work permit. So what that means is the state of Washington paid money to allow her to come in and get a visa to work instead of hiring one of their own citizens in the state of Washington. FYI, if you live in Washington State, yeah, that's your problem, because that's what you vote for. Not everybody, but a good chunk of you. Same with Oregon. What a disaster on both fronts. But with that said, she took her kids to the airport in Vancouver so they could fly to visit their family, and it was a cheaper fare. When she came back after dropping her older 2 kids off to go visit their grandparents from the Vancouver airport to fly to New Zealand, I assume New Zealand, I don't know where they're flying to, I think it was New Zealand, she got stopped at the border. Normal border. Come through, show your documents. Guess what, folks? Her travel document was expired. Oh, there's your context. So she leaves the country on an expired travel visa. She then tries to re-enter the country a few hours later on the same expired visa. She gets flagged. She's with her child, young kid, toddler, and she gets detained, and then she gets sent to a detention facility. Of course, the article is, she got sent 2,000 miles away to a detention facility in Texas. All right, let's back up. Oh, remember the writer Nobody wants to go on vacation. Okay, wasn't on vacation. Get abducted by masked men. They weren't masked. They were at the normal immigration checkpoint as you come from Canada to the US and vice versa. Okay. Oh, yeah, she did end up in a detention center because she had an expired travel visa. You can't come into, you have to go reapply for a travel visa. And they talk about, and then he talks about how it's affecting tourism. Okay, she works in the United States, pal. She's not here on vacation. She has, I think, three kids, at least 3 children, and she's working here. But she never bothered, or maybe she forgot to renew her travel visa. Whose fault is that? And for those who are like, oh, they sent her 2,000 miles away, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And she had to get an attorney. Yeah, because she effed up. We have rules now, folks. We don't just let everybody walk into the country. Come on in. You need some food stamps. You need a place to stay. You need a monthly stipend so you can take care of things. Oh, you need a translator so your kids can go to school because they don't speak English. That shit is over, folks. It's over. And I'm really happy that's over because there's been a monumental financial drain. We've probably spent in the last 4 years $1.5 to $2 trillion collectively that we don't have as a country. FYI, we're approaching $37 trillion in debt. So everybody's like, oh, just give them money. Just give them. Okay, you're bankrupting the future of the country, the future of your kids and your grandkids. Ain't going to affect me. So why do I care? That's what people would ask me. Why do you care? You're retired. Why don't you just go and enjoy life? Because people are getting screwed. And even people like this journalist who don't even realize, in my opinion, in some cases, and give them the benefit of the doubt, how effed up this is. So again, he claims that nobody wants to go on vacation, get abducted by masked men, and end up in a detention center. Of course, it's going to affect tourism. No, your words are affecting tourism. Your words and this just hyperbolic nonsense. It's not even correct. You use this person as an example, and she's not on vacation. She's not coming here on vacation. She lives here. She works here. She had her documents, but they expired. So yeah, it took 3 weeks. And you know why she was 2,000 miles away? Because they didn't want to separate her baby, I think it was 3 years old, from her. So they sent her to a detention center at our expense, taxpayer expense, so they could be together. And it's a family detention center designed for this exact thing, keeping them together, not, quote, separating families at the border, as some of you clowns would state and lie about. But that's okay. And if you want to know what's affecting tourism, young man, when you write stories like this, you know what you do? You perpetuate the myth and create more obstacles to travel. Okay? And I can unequivocally state that the issue that we're having with inbound travel to the United States is directly because of the media's portrayal, including by this writer, spreading fear, blaming policies that secure our borders. Like, for instance, is anybody complaining that when my kids flew into Cancun for a Christmas vacation years ago and the passports had expired on the kid's passport? I was on business. My wife missed it, flew in. And guess what, folks? She couldn't leave the airport. They put her on a plane, the next plane back to the US, and she was out of there. And you know what sucked about that? And I was so mad at my wife because I worked like a dog, 80, 100-hour weeks, constant travel. I was so mad because it was a long weekend. They extended the holiday because I think it was like a Thursday or it was a Friday. And by the time she could get the passports renewed, it was the following Wednesday. And I missed like a week of special time with my kids on a Christmas break that I was paying for. And that sucked. But did I hear, oh, they're not letting people in the country. They're damaging tourism. No, she didn't have her documents together. My own wife. The guy goes on TV, talks about all the things you need to do. Make sure your passport's up to date. Make sure, you got 6 months left on your passport, blah, 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 whatever. Totally missed it. And, when you're raising 2 kids and you're busy and you got a lot going on, I get it. I forgave my wife. Yes, I did. It was very depressing to sit at a resort and not have my wife and kids there for that period of time. So it really sucked. But again, you can't just walk into Mexico, folks. You can't just walk into, can I just go to the UK and show up and be like, hey, I want to come. Yeah, hey, whatever. Yeah. Unless I come in on a boat, or are they going to let me fly into Heathrow with no documents and just go on my merry way? If I don't have the right documents, what are they going to do at Heathrow, folks? So think about these media outlets and how they portray things. And then think about the foreign governments that actually own and control a lot of these media outlets. And just look at The Guardian. Like, for instance, let me just pull up The Guardian for you, because this is another great example of what we're talking about. So let's see. Let me stop that. Let me get going here. One moment, folks. Where are you, Guardian? Where are you, Guardian? Where you? I know you're up here somewhere. Hang on a second, folks. Here you go. Look at this headline. New Zealand woman and 6-year-old son detained for 3 weeks by ICE in the U.S., enduring a terrifying ordeal. Okay. Now, did they quote the lady that was detained? Nope. Some friend of hers in the U.S. was the one quoted throughout. She thought she was being kidnapped. They didn't really explain anything to her at first. Okay, this isn't even first person. This wouldn't be admissible in court because it's all hearsay. They confiscated her phone and transported the mother and son to the Dilley Immigration Processing Center in South Texas, many states away from her home. Okay, I just told you why they sent her to Texas. And she went on to say, it has been absolutely horrible, adding that aside from staff, Shaw and her son are the only English speakers. Yeah, because you're down in Texas and we got a bunch of illegal Spanish-speaking folks from all of Central, South America, et cetera, and Mexico. So yeah, that sucks. And yeah, she got her work visa renewed, but she never got her travel visa renewed. And then it wasn't until she tried to come back across the border that she realized only half the combination card, had been fully approved. Okay, whose fault is that? Okay, so as you go down, this trauma has already caused the trauma this has already caused for her and her son may never be healed. Oh Lord. Okay. The Union, Western State Hospital, I guess that's where she works, vehemently opposes ICE practices. Yeah, because we want 20 million more people coming in over the next 4 years to basically bankrupt our country. Okay. Again, people with no clue. And again, nothing in here about the actual facts, just feelings. And like I love to say, people have heard me say this, facts don't care about your feelings. I don't, in these stories, I don't care about person's feelings. Oh my God, we're so hurt. We're so this. Oh my God, it was so horrible. Okay. You leave the country without your documents and then you're bitching because, you can't come in because you don't have your documents. Yeah, you need to show your papers, folks. You're not a citizen. And again, I go back to why in the hell is Washington State hiring somebody from New Zealand to work in Washington State when they have actual citizens they could hire to work? That's what you should be pissed off about, not the fact that she didn't renew her travel visa, got flagged for it, and got sent to a place so her and her son could stay together, not because it was many states away, it was scary, it was traumatizing. Yeah, maybe next time you'll get your crap together and be okay. But meanwhile, let me just go back to the TUI article. Have you ever heard of the World Travel and Tourism Council? It's a forum for travel and tourism officials around the world, blah, blah, blah. You pay a bunch of money to be part of this community and you work with governments to raise awareness about the travel and tourism industry. Well, Julie Simpson, the CEO, in the same article, now we're on to this, it's again, the same article. Again, it's just like bash, 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 bash. Julie Simpson, CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, says, quote, of 184 countries, the U.S. is the only one that's seeing an absolute decline in international visitor spending. The U.S. is definitely losing its crown in this area. After that quote, the story continues. The Trump administration now requires all foreigners 14 or older to register and submit fingerprints if they intend to stay beyond 30 days. Then we're back to Julie. Now, again, are these in context? Did he interview Julie? Did they use the 14-year-old and up having to submit fingerprints through their application in order to enter the U.S.? Only if they're planning on staying more than 30 days, folks. Most people do like a 1 or 2 week vacation. Most people aren't staying 30 days or more, but that's okay, especially 14-year-olds, but whatever. So I don't know if this is all in context or not. So again, she's talking about how the U.S. is losing its crown because of the decline in visitor spending. Okay, we do have a decline. There's no doubt about it. But again, what are the root causes? But then she continues on, or I should say he continues on with a quote from the same Julie Simpson, CEO of World Travel and Tourism Council. Quote, the rest of the world are putting up open signs and getting people to come and see their country. The U.S. at the minute has firmly got a we're not open for business closed sign, which is a great shame. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to leave it in the context. I'm going to address it in the context that's in this actual story. She says that after the 14-year-old and up requiring fingerprints, et cetera, that we've got a close sign. So I'm assuming they're all connected. So if the journalist didn't plan to connect it, then he's just piecing things together. But let's assume he connected the dots here. So we're losing our crown as the revenue leader with international arrivals, okay, and spending. Okay. No, it's definitely down, folks, and it has an impact. Again, what are the root causes? Why are fewer people coming? I blame the media. I blame journalists like this, fanning the flames, because he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I blame Julie Simpson, World Travel and Tourism Council. You're saying, Julie, that the rest of the world is putting up signs and getting people to come and putting up signs that say, come and see our country, while the U.S. it basically says we're not open. Is it because we're asking for fingerprints from anybody that wants to come here and stay more than 30 days? Okay. Let's assume that's the case. Here's why I hate quotes like this. If that's the case, well, let me just address this. The reason I hate quotes like this is that quote designed to sensationalize the story. Is it designed to make a point? Because if I was interviewing that person, I would ask a follow-up question. Okay, give me an example of what you mean by a close sign. Again, is it the fingerprinting? Because maybe that's what it was about. Maybe that was asked and answered. That was her answer to that. Okay. If it's due to, the fingerprints and asking for that as the country of the U.S. requires now, I think it began October 1st. Could someone remind the journalist and Julie Simpson that the EU is implementing biometric data collection? So if you want to come to the EU, you have to submit biometric data, a photo, and fingerprints for a visa application, for the electronic travel authorization system for the visa exempt countries. Okay. So again, for visa required travelers, they collect it when you get there. So yeah, Europe is collecting your biometric data, folks, but somehow the US doing fingerprints for anybody staying over 30 days. Again, we're not requiring that if you want to come here from the UK or Germany for a couple of weeks on a business trip or a leisure trip. They are. So Julie, what's the deal? Does all of Europe have a close sign out? Have you spoken out about this? Again, the answer is no. Or if she has, boy, I'd love to see it. But in the context of this article, it appears that it's just the US with the close sign. So contextually, even if she did say that, then again, back to the journalism. It's bullshit. So these are all going on, and they drive me nuts, as you can probably, well, I guess you can tell. That's my take on that story. Go look up the story. Just look up TUI CEO blames Trump. You'll see it. It's not secret. But again, even though you can find the article and you can read the article for yourself. And then you can respond to me and say, hey, you're full of crap, Murphy. You know what you're talking about. It's a perfectly fine article. Orange Man is bad and we need to get rid of him and, whatever. Okay. All right. Last, I want to cover taxes and fees. Again, the more you tax something, the less you get of it. Keep this in mind, folks. The more you tax, the less you get. Why do they call taxes on cigarettes and alcohol sin taxes? Because they want to make it more expensive. I remember you used to buy a carton of cigarettes for like what, $10, $12? I don't even know what it costs today. But you buy a pack of cigarettes in New York City, what is it, $10, $12? $15 for some brands for one pack of cigarettes? You could buy a whole case for that years ago. But the reason they do that is they want you to do less of that. So when you impose exorbitant taxes on travel and additional fees on travel, what do you get less of? For the folks that don't know math and don't understand common sense, and we know who you are out there, you know what that means? Yeah, you get less travel. Yeah, that's the ticket, folks. You get less travel. So I'm talking about fees that add, in New York City, 30% to the cost of a stay. 30%. So let's go to another article. Okay. And it's not actually an article. Where is it? It is, oh, I know where it is. It is a TripAdvisor post, social media. So let's check it out. Here's the TripAdvisor post. And this was a traveler who looked at what he was paying for New York City hotel and restaurant taxes. Okay, let me make that a little tighter. There we go. So he said he spent 1 week with a family of 4 in New York at the Hyatt Grand Central. Great location, crappy room. Couldn't agree more. He was surprised. He's a visitor from Zurich. I was surprised about the number of taxes and fees. The bill for 7 nights is 4 pages long. Here you go. Accommodations, $354 for the room. New York City sales tax, almost 9%, 8.875. So that was $31.45 on top. But you also have the old New York City occupancy tax. What the hell is that? Oh, well, you're occupying the room. We're going to tax you. That's almost another 6%, another $20, $21. A unit occupancy tax, because the room rate was higher than $40. Can't find a room in New York City for $40, folks. That's $2 per night. You had the New York City Javits occupancy tax of $1.50 a night. So you get a tax. Now remember, the liberals in New York put in the Javits tax so they could do the work at the Javits, which ended in 2021. It was a temporary tax. FYI, they never get rid of those taxes, folks. Still here in 2025. Then they have something called a destination fee of $40. And in addition to paying the $40 on the destination fee, and I had to look up what the destination fee was. I thought I knew what it was, and I had to confirm it. I'll tell you that in a second. But they charge another 9% on the of sales tax on the destination fee. They charge another 6%. I'm rounding up a little bit, just a hair, of the New York City occupancy tax on the destination fee. So on a $354 hotel room, there are $101.66 worth of taxes. What? They tax the fees that they charge you. And by the way, the destination fee is something that I have loathed since they implemented them. And it's the good old resort fee, folks. The good old resort fee. Anybody who's had to deal with the resort fees knows what I'm talking about. The resort fees are so ridiculous in places like Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Journal last summer, just a few months ago, ran an article where people are saying, put a moratorium on these resort fees. They can go to $50 to $60 a day per room. Resort fee. Oh, well, Mark, thank you for visiting our hotel. The charge is $500 a night here at the Bellagio or whatever, pick a hotel. That doesn't include our $55 resort fee, so you could use the pool. But you're like, oh, well, what do you mean use the pool? What are you talking about? Well, if you want to use the pool, the gym, the blah, 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 anything else here on the property, yeah, we're going to charge for that. Huh. But I'm paying $500 a night for the room. Why are you charging me a resort fee? I'm paying for the resort, aren't I? Like, isn't the hotel part of the resort? Oh, Mark, the hotel room is part of the resort. However, if you would like to swim in our pool, you're going to pay the $55 fee. You know what? The hotel industry has effed itself with these resort fees. And let me tell you why they do it. They do it for one simple reason. It's a way to do two things. First, when you go online and you search a price, you're looking at hotels, and a lot of people will sort like 4-star hotels, and they'll go in ascending order from the cheapest up to the most expensive. By charging a resort fee, a $200 hotel or $150 hotel might look like, oh, that's the best deal out there for that particular destination. But then you go to book it and you realize your 6 nights, there's another $300, for example, if it's a $50 resort fee a night. So your effective room rate is actually $200 a night, not $150. It's a way to look better at the time you're searching and trying to find the best value for the money. And this is why a travel agent is really important. This is why you want to use a travel agent, because they sort through all this crap for you. They disclose all this stuff for you. They're not trying to snooker you in to go into the booking process like the hotels and resorts in Vegas do. So you book it direct. And then as you're going down the path, it's like, I'm getting charged for this. I'm getting charged for this. I'm getting the sales tax, go back to New York City. Resort fee. Hey, Hyatt Grand Central. Where's the resort? A resort fee? No, see, they don't call it a resort fee. They changed it to a destination fee because you're in our destination. The destination being the Hyatt Grand Central. Yeah, you're at the destination. We're it, right? Yeah, we're the destination. Yeah, it's a destination fee. They just play around with the name. $40. What does that get you? Probably get you a couple of bottles of water that you could buy at the corner for $1. What else? Oh, internet access. Woo! I get internet access. What if I have a hotspot? What if I don't need the internet access? Well, you get to use the gym, Mark. Well, the gym's part of the hotel. Why wouldn't I be able to use the gym? Like, again, impossible to justify. It's a gimmick. And then when a travel agent books it, they only commission the travel agent at the same rate you pay. Let's say it's $150 a night. The travel agent might earn a $15 commission, but the real rate is $200. Well, they would have to pay another 10% of that $50 or another $5 for that, or a $20 commission. $20 commission, not a $15 commission. So that money goes right to their bottom line. That's why they do it. And yes, folks, you have priced yourself out in many places like Las Vegas from the average customer, because just look at what your rates have done. You guys have had a great run. Your stock prices have done great for the most part. You've banked money, and now you're seeing a hit. The only way to swing it back is stop the nonsense. Stop the BS. Stop the resort fees. Let people know what they're paying up front. You don't get angry customers that check in going, why am I paying for this? I'm only here for one night. I'm a business traveler. I'm just here for meetings in Las Vegas. That would be me. Don't go to Vegas. I don't think I've ever gone to Vegas just for leisure. It's always been for meetings. And after 2 nights, I start getting stir crazy. And if I'm there for a conference for 5 nights, it's like freaking Groundhog Day. Okay. It's like a 2-night destination, maybe 3. Anybody who stays longer than that, especially if you're there for work, it's literally like you wake up every day and you're like, oh my God, I'm still here. And that's how I felt. I think that's how a lot of people felt. Now, I get the idea, party your ass off, go drink, go do fine dining. But like I said in my last podcast a couple of weeks ago, if you want to get a nice steak dinner and just the steak is as much as $85 at some of these restaurants, and dinner's going to run you $400 or $500 if you get a bottle of wine, even if you get the cheapest, $500 with the tip, plus $500 for the room, plus $50 or $60 for the resort fee, plus you got to get there, plus you're taking taxis or Ubers everywhere you got to go. Oh, you want to park? Yeah, we're going to charge you for that. Oh my God. And then people are wondering why travel to certain places is down. That's all I got, folks. So I hope you're having a good one. Again, I don't mention it a bunch of times throughout. Hopefully you listen to the end, but please subscribe at traveltube.com. Follow us on your favorite podcast apps. Follow us on your favorite social media apps. We're everywhere, and you'll get a lot of tidbits, a lot of bites. Not so much for me, because I do this occasionally. I don't do it every week. I try to schedule these actual travel experts, travel agents, travel advisors, because they literally save you money and get you better deals than are in the public domain. Till next time, I'm Mark Murphy, and this is traveltube.com. Join us.